Do you think that the fact that the US and Israel launched these strikes during Ramadan has any influence in Iran's narrative that this is something that Muslims should come together in its defense?
I think sometimes we orientalize very quickly in the West. So if you were to say the same thing, is it wrong that it's being done during Lent, which is when this has happened? Most people scratch their heads and go, that's got nothing to do with how decisions get made. So obviously, if you have an Islamic revolutionary regime, there's a very strong incentive to frame things in the context of religion, of religious festivals, and of disrespect. And of course, that ties in with the idea that this is the West against the Islamic world. But that's not how most people in the region have seen this. They've not seen this as being an attack by the United States on the Gulf, on Saudi Arabia. They see the aggressor is Iran choosing to hit refineries and pipelines in Saudi Arabia and so on. And, again, the Middle East is much, much more multicultural than we sometimes think. And, one of the countries that's really borne the brunt of the last 2 or 3 weeks has been Lebanon, which has a completely separate history to that of Iran and other countries too, much higher levels of Christian population still intact. And so I think that we can sometimes over prioritize what we think is an offensive step, but because we're trying to look for narratives of our own. But
I would just push back against that a little. I mean, I totally agree with and respect your point, but I think there is a difference between something happening in Lent in Europe, for example, and something happening during Ramadan. I mean, I've lived in Muslim countries which are actually quite secular during Ramadan, and it's a completely different atmosphere from anything I've experienced here, and I lived in Senegal during Ramadan. It has a big Christian population. It's got this history of these Shia sects. It's not a very traditional interpretation of Islam, but still there was a real atmosphere of kind of unity around the holy month, and it permeated all aspects of professional and social life much more than anything really I've experienced in the UK, maybe apart from like Christmas Day or maybe Easter Day, but like a whole month where people are focusing on a more spiritual idea of community and their relationship with their faith does feel like an interesting choice of a time to start a war in a region where people really do tend to observe those rituals more maybe than the equivalent rituals in the US, for example.